Welcome to the Wrestling for Life Network and welcome to our prediction video for Genesis coming up this Sunday, January 19th. We have a lot on the card. I am not here alone today, but we'll get into that in just a second. We've had a lot of TNA news over the past couple of days. We'll get into the TNA news. We'll get into the card. We'll get into our thoughts and our predictions. It's going to be a wild show. So happy that I'm not here alone, but we are going to get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to the Wrestling for Life Network. And the TNA review looks a little different this week because it'll be our preview and prediction show for Genesis. And for the first time in a very long time, I am not alone. I have a special guest with me, a very good friend of mine, Nick. And I'm going to let Nick take it away, let him introduce himself to the Wrestling for Life Network family.
Well, first, I got to say, Anthony, I appreciate you having me on. This is just absolutely amazing getting to talk TNA with another big TNA fan because I feel like I don't really get to do that a whole bunch. But my name is Nick Terrio12. I stream pro wrestling content on Twitch, do watch-alongs, I do reaction videos, I do some storytelling stuff, some previews and predictions on my channels. I've been doing this for about 4 years now. I started with MLB The Show content, baseball content, and then about fall 2023, I switched over to pro wrestling, and it's just been amazing so far joining the IWC, the good parts of it, of course. It's been a lot of fun, and I definitely can't wait moving forward for 2025.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you're you're in the wrestling space. It's a good thing to be in the wrestling space. We all have like our own like little niche in the wrestling space, so that's cool. But I'm glad you're here today on the Wrestling for Life Network to chop down this huge Genesis card. So before we get into the Genesis card and the big news that really came out this week, how did you get into TNA? How did you get into TNA? What inspired you to watch TNA? What was it about TNA that set TNA different from all of the other promotions?
Okay, well, this is actually a funny story. The first time I got into TNA, well, I've been into WWE since 2004. I watched it religiously when I was a kid, growing up and everything. I actually got into TNA. Do you remember that whole Robbie McAllister thing?
Yeah,
when he went over to TNA? That's how I got into the promotion, was because I saw Robbie McAllister on TNA television, and then he got fired like a couple of months later. That's ultimately how I got into the promotion, and I've been into it ever since.
That's good. That's good. I think for me, at least on my end, I recently just got into TNA when it was Impact Wrestling, and that's kind of where I fell in love with everything, fell in love with the aspect of them having extremely great matches in the storytelling. And I've kind of traveled back in time to watch the old stuff, some of the stuff I missed growing up. So it's good to find somebody in the wrestling. It's hard to find someone in the wrestling space that enjoys TNA. So when you find them, you got to hold on to them as long as possible. But we won't delay this any further. We'll go ahead and talk about the big news that came out this week. I think it shocked everybody in the wrestling world. We've known that TNA and WWE has had like a working relationship, and it seemed like it was a handshake deal that really all started at the Royal Rumble with Jordynne Grace last year, and then it led to Jordynne Grace showing up and Joe Hendry, and they were on TV for a couple of months. But now we have the official deal, which came out on Thursday. WWE and TNA signed a multi-year partnership to work together, with TNA stars showing up on NXT regularly, NXT stars showing up on TNA regularly, and it could be huge collaborations potentially with the main roster coming up too. We don't know, but I feel like that's a possibility. So Nick, I know we talked about this in private messages. How are you feeling about this huge deal that just was announced?
I was extremely amped up. The news came out just as I was finishing up work, so I immediately went to my car, did my reaction video, and I was flabbergasted by the whole thing because I was not expecting that at all. Usually you hear like rumors within like the IWC that something's going to go down, but this was totally unexpected, and I think it's phenomenal news. I think it works great for both TNA and WWE.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the TNA aspect of it and what they'll get out of it, I know they've been working on trying to get a big TV deal in the United States, and no better way to get a TV deal is partnering with the biggest company in the world, the
Mhm.
biggest wrestling company in the world, WWE. So I think for TNA, that's what they could potentially get out of this: more eyes on the product and a more substantial TV deal. And then with WWE, it gives those NXT stars not being used an opportunity to be used somewhere else like TNA. And the Knockouts division, I know we've talked about it a couple of times. The Knockouts division is the best in the world, but it's also lacking a little bit of star power there as well, with Jordan Grace potentially stepping away. And we'll talk about that shortly, if that's even a possibility at this point. But it gives the Knockouts division more star power and more name power. So I think this is great on both sides. But since I brought up Jordan Grace, we all had the thought of Jordan Grace leaving TNA to go to WWE, but with this whole multi-year partnership, could she stay with TNA and just show up on WWE television without signing with the company?
I think it's very possible. I mean, even if she signs with WWE, if she goes to NXT, there she'll have the opportunity to cross over to TNA whenever she wants to.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that'd be great for her. I don't know if she jumps ships right away. I don't know if she stays with TNA. I do feel like she signed a 2-year contract and then she decided to amend that contract in January. To me, that signals that she wanted to take just a small break from wrestling and then maybe potentially come back down the line. But with this deal, I could see her sticking around with TNA and showing up on WWE television, wherever she shows up on. And she's made a huge impact. To me, she's been the one that spearheaded all of this with showing up at the Royal Rumble right after defeating Trinity, who is Naomi in WWE, for the TNA Knockouts World Championship. So I think this is just all good all around for both sides.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It gives NXT the chance to use some of their wrestlers, give them experience outside of WWE as well in TNA, and it gets those TNA wrestlers some exposure in WWE's audience. So I think it's just absolutely amazing. I believe it's for 2 years, isn't it? The multi-year
I
partnership.
think it is two
Yeah,
years.
it's going to be a phenomenal 2 years. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great 2 years. And watching a little bit of Tommy Dreamer's interview yesterday and seeing the excitement on his face and how he's talked about how this just gives an open world opportunity for both TNA and WWE. So 2025, I've been saying it is the year of TNA wrestling. They're going to bigger venues. They're trying to do the best they can as getting TNA back out there to the wrestling fandom and basically taking away all the naysayers who say TNA is dead, TNA is not around, WWE is about to die, about to buy TNA wrestling, and it seems like that's not the case. TNA is sticking around for a long time here.
TNA is very much alive. TNA is very much alive. That they've been selling out venues. They've been doing so well with their live shows. The product is hotter than it's ever been since like the late 2010s, early 2010s. Absolutely amazing stuff going on with TNA. They got some great personalities, some great stories going on there too. I'm so in love with this deal. And yeah, like being partnered with WWE really shows that they're trying to play it. They got that deal with Sportsnet now in Canada.
Yeah.
That TV deal was huge for them, especially after Sportsnet lost WWE. So if you're looking for wrestling in Canada, TNA on Sportsnet. And I think it's definitely going to lead to a bigger deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's gonna come down to a bigger deal in the United States very, very soon. I seen even USA Network tweet about the whole partnership. So USA, if you're listening, get TNA on USA on Thursday nights. I think we need it. But
That would be huge. Oh my
yeah,
god.
that would be huge for us here in the United States to have TNA on Thursday night. So it might be a possibility. I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward to this year with this partnership. But so we won't delay any longer. We'll go ahead and go into the Genesis predictions and preview. Genesis is shaping up to be TNA's best pay-per-view of 2025 already. We got a slew of matches, we got a slew of rivalries coming to a head, and we got the first match on the card with the System taking on Steve Maclin and Eric Young. And we know the System has somewhat ruled TNA in 2024. They held all the gold at one point. Alicia Edwards was even a champion. We still got Moose as the X Division champion. So how do you feel about going in this match against the System versus Steve Maclin and Eric Young? And where's your mindset with Steve Maclin of his positioning right now in TNA?
With Steve Maclin, I think his positioning is starting to rise back up on the card. He's had some pretty great matches in 2024, mostly singles matches, some tag team matches. But I think it's time for him to propel back to the very top, kind of like what we'll talk about later with Mike Santana. I think it's time for both of them to reach main event status in TNA. I think that's probably the best for business. Regarding Maclin and Young and the System, I do have the System winning this tag team match just to kind of propel that uprising of Steve Maclin even higher once he gets back on track.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there with the System taking this win. I think the feud with the System, Steve Maclin and Eric Young, will continue for another couple of weeks here, maybe into which they haven't announced yet, but into their February TNA monthly special. But I got the System winning because you can't bet against the System. You always got to trust the System, right? So I feel like the System takes this home. And like you said, with Steve Maclin, I feel like in the coming months, he will kind of be in that main event scene again. He had a run with the world title back in 2023, I think it was. And It wasn't the best. It wasn't because it wasn't long enough. I feel like it wasn't long enough. And I feel like if he can get back to that main event scene and grab that TNA World Championship, we are going to see the best Steve Maclin possible.
I definitely 100% agree with you. I believe he had the Impact Championship for about a month or maybe 2 months before Alex Shelley beat him. That would be absolutely phenomenal. Could you imagine a Steve Maclin, Mike Santana feud for that World Championship?
Oh, to see those two in the ring together, that would be crazy. That both of them have excellent mic skills. Mike Santana is up there with the best of them, and Steve Maclin is going to come at you extremely hard on the mic. That's just kind of what he is. So to see them have an exchange of words on the mic is going to be great. And their match in general, for the world title, if that ever happens, easily best match of the night. Easily best match of the night if that happens.
I'm booking it for 2025 at some point. That might be one of my hottest takes regarding TNA wrestling for 2025. I think it has to happen at some point.
Yeah, I feel like, my like thought process for the world title going into 2025 is that Joe Hendry wins. Hopefully we'll get to that, but Joe Hendry wins, and then Mike Santana takes the title from Joe Hendry, and then after that we might get the Mike Santana and Steve Maclin feud. So that's kind of my thought process of 2025. So I'm hopeful that happens. If it doesn't, I'm not going to be upset, but I know we're going to get there with Steve Maclin and Mike Santana.
1000%.
Yeah. So we got the next match on the card, which I am really excited about. We got the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championships on the line. Spitfire will be defending against Ash and Heather by Elegance. And anybody on the channel knows that Ash by Elegance is one of my favorite women's wrestlers right now. And last night, actually on SmackDown, when they were showing the video package of Charlotte, I thought it was Ash by Elegance because it was a very similar video package, because this TNA WWE partnership has my mind going crazy. But Spitfire has held the tag team titles for a bit here, and they've been feuding with Ash and Heather by Elegance. Ash was by herself for a minute, then Heather Reckless came around and Ash kind of took her over her ring, under her ring, and now there are a tag team. They renamed Heather to Heather by Elegance, and I've actually enjoyed the portions of this feud that we've seen on TV with matches being traded with wins. I think both teams have 2 wins apiece at this point between all 4 of them. So, how do you feel about the Knockouts Tag Team Championships being on the line? Who do you have winning, and why is it Ash and Heather by Elegance?
Took the words right out of my mouth, man. I was good. Yeah, I'm obviously going with Ash and Heather by Elegance. Heather Reckless, very new to TNA. This is a huge opportunity for her. She's amazing in the ring. Her and Ash are a perfect pairing. I think this is the most amazing time for them to take the Knockouts Tag Team Championship against Spitfire, because I believe Spitfire has been going on about a 2-month reign, 3-month reign, it seems like. And they've had it for, I believe they've held it for 2-3 times this year. I think it's time for Ash by Elegance to finally have gold in TNA, because I originally thought she was going to win at Slammiversary against Jordynne Grace, but I'm really happy with Knockouts Tag Team Gold as well. That's a very good first step.
Yeah, and when it comes to Ash, I really believe this is like a breakout year for Ash, right? She was in WWE for so long as Dana Brooke and wasn't really utilized to the best of her ability. Then she showed up on TNA at Hard to Kill last year, and there was a lot of people laughing about her showing up at TNA, but I believe in the past year she has proved the doubters wrong. One of my favorite matches with Ash was her and Jordynne Grace in the match by Elegance that happened on an episode of TNA Impact, which showed that Ash can really hang with the best of them. And I originally thought that Ash was going to be the one to dethrone Jordynne Grace. I didn't think it was going to be at Slammiversary. I thought they would push the match to Bound for Glory, and she wins, but giving it to Masha was not a bad choice either. But when it comes to Spitfire, you know, Danny Luna and Jody Threat work very well together, and I like them as a tag team, but it's time for them to give up those titles to Ash and Heather by Elegance.
I 1000% agree with that. She definitely proved me wrong since she got to TNA. I liked her as Dana Brooke in WWE, but I love her as Ash by Elegance in TNA. Her character arc is just absolutely amazing with the personal concierge. It makes everything funny. It makes everything interesting. Now having Heather Reckless by her side as Heather by Elegance, it just makes them a really amazing duo.
Yeah, it really does. And yeah, speaking of her personal concierge, I think he brings the best in that character development. He brings some of the best workout, you know, being able to introduce her, being able to speak for her, and then Ash can speak for herself on the mic too. So you get the best of both worlds there with the personal concierge and Ash by Elegance. And then when it comes to Heather, like you said, she's very new to TNA, and you know, she's had some good matches so far. So to throw gold on her very, very quickly is, in my opinion, is a great move. I think it's a great move to give these two the tag team titles, to see how they bring the knockouts division full circle in the tag team portion of that division, and seeing them actually take those titles to NXT and defend it against some of the women's tag teams there would be excellent.
You just mentioned NXT. Oh, let me cook this. Ash and Heather by Elegance defend the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles against Lash and Jakara of NXT.
Yeah.
That could be
I
tag
like
team match of the year.
That could be a women's tag team match of the year right there. I would like to see that, and I feel like that match would be better surfaced on TNA television. I think that'd be great having that on a live episode of TNA Impact. Yeah, you just booked the women's tag team match of the year right there.
That would be absolutely money.
So the next match we got on the card, which is something I'm excited for too, and I'm probably going to say that it's about all of the matches, but we got Moose defending the X Division Championship against Ace Austin. Moose took the title away from Speedball Mike Bailey a week after Bound for Glory, I think, and has kind of been ruling the X Division since then. Ace Austin obviously lost his tag team partner to injury right now. Prayers up for Chris Bay. So Ace Austin is a singles competitor. So now we got Moose, we got Ace Austin, we got the X Division Championship, and we got a new X Division title being revealed tomorrow at not Slammiversary, Genesis by Moose. So how do you feel? How do you feel about this match? Does Moose retain here? Does Ace Austin do this for Chris Bay? What's your thoughts here?
I've gone really back and forth with this, to be honest. It's been really tough because Moose, as we've seen in 2024, is a dominant champion when he needs to be. He's absolutely amazing in the ring. But there's also the story of Ace Austin doing this for Chris Bay. Ace Austin, don't forget, he's also a former 3-time X Division champion in that division. So he's got the experience. He knows what it means to win singles gold on his own. With this prediction, though, it's so hard. I got Moose. You can't bet against Moose in the system.
Yeah, with Moose had an excellent 2024, right? Starting off by winning the world title at Hard to Kill, holding it till Slammiversary, finding his footing again, and then won the X Division Championship. You can't bet against Moose. I would love Ace Austin to take this victory for Chris Bay, but because we're having that introduction of the new X Division title, which I feel like is going to be catered to Moose, it'll be a custom Moose title. Moose is winning. Moose is walking out of Genesis as X Division champion. No doubt about it. Just like we said earlier with the system, you can't bet against the system, and Moose just takes this all the way.
Yeah, I've gone really back and forth with this. It would be amazing if Ace Austin did win. I'd be fine if he did win too, but like you said, you can't bet against Moose.
Yeah, and after even that passionate promo by Ace Austin when Moose brought up Chris Bay and he grabbed the mic and was like, "Don't talk about Chris Bay." Like that was the moment when I was like, maybe Ace Austin can really win this. And like you said, he's ran the X Division before. He's been the X Division championship several times. It would be nice if they gave the Genesis crowd a feel-good moment with Ace Austin winning. I just don't see it. I think Moose takes this all the way.
Yeah.
So the next match on the card, which we've already hinted about a couple of times when it comes to Mike Santana, Josh Alexander versus Mike Santana, which is now an I Quit match revealed on this past week's episode of TNA Impact. I'm excited for this. Josh Alexander, as we know, the standard of TNA wrestling, the heart and soul of TNA wrestling, as he calls himself. And then Mike Santana returned to TNA at Rebellion and has not slowed down since. And we have Mike Santana feuding with the majority of the Northern Armory, with Josh Alexander included. And so now we get to this match at Genesis. Give me your thoughts about Josh Alexander. Give me your thoughts about Mike Santana and the match as a whole.
I got so many thoughts. Josh Alexander, he's top 5 pro wrestler in the whole space right now for me. Josh Alexander has been one of my favorites for years. Absolutely love the man. Like you said, he's the heart and soul of TNA wrestling, but it's time for Mike Santana to become the heart and soul of TNA wrestling. For this I Quit match, I think it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be brutal. These two are going to absolutely bring it. We see that they can bring it on the mic together. We've seen them in the ring together before, but in this singles match, in a I Quit match, it is going to be absolute cinema, and I got Mike Santana winning this. I think this is his first big step before getting to the main event scene and the TNA World Championship.
Yeah, I agree with you there, especially when it comes to Mike Santana. He already ran through Moose. You know, he beat Moose at Bound for Glory. This is his next big step. If he beats Josh Alexander, this puts him in that main event spot. Once we move away, and like I said, we'll get to that shortly. Once we move away from Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry, whoever wins that match, Mike Santana is next in line. Easily. Mike Santana, passionate on the mic, and I actually saw Mike Santana retweet you earlier this week, so that congratulations to you, buddy.
That was cool. Thank you.
But Mike Santana, incredible on the mic. He can go in that ring. He's always passionate when he's on the mic. And Josh Alexander, we've already said it, heart and soul of TNA wrestling. But Josh Alexander is also exploring free agency in February. So it's time to pass this torch to someone that I believe can handle that torch and hold it high, and that's Mike Santana. Like you said, this match is going to be cinema. This match is going to be brutal. This match is going to completely tear down the house. And I feel like there's a couple of matches that can be match of the night, but this is one that literally can be like match of the like number one. Easily going with Mike Santana here. Can't go against anyone with Josh Alexander at this point. It's definitely Mike Santana.
I cannot wait. This is probably the match I'm probably most excited for, other than Hendry and Nemeth. But oh my god, I can't wait for Mike Santana to get that win.
Yeah, the pop that he's going to get when he gets that win in front of the Texas crowd is going to be great. And then, like we've both said, this is going to move him to that world championship picture, which I believe is well deserved for Mike Santana. 2024, I feel like, was his new beginnings, his genesis basically. And I think 2025 will be like that TNA breakout year as him being a singles competitor.
Yeah, it's all gonna go into that redemption arc. It's gonna be amazing to see.
Right, absolutely. So we'll get to the next match here, which is the World Tag Team Championships. The TNA World Tag Team Championships are on the line. The Hardys will be defending the Rascals. Will be defending against the Rascals at Genesis. And basically, there wasn't a ton of build to this match, right? But this match was built off of dreams. The Hardys in a dream match with the Rascals, and the Rascals in a dream match with the Hardys. And we've seen the Rascals over the past 7 months have extremely high showing up in NXT and reuniting with Wesley to an extremely low with Wesley turning on both of them. And for a minute there, we had Zachary Wentz as X Division champion. He kind of went on a small little solo run there, and now the Rascals are back together with Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. So this is the big tag team match. They've been kind of building it for the past 2 or 3 weeks here. Who do you have winning, and how do you feel about the Hardys? So I guess this will be a triple question here, right? So who do you have winning? How do you feel about the Hardys returning to TNA and signing for another year? And how do you feel about the Rascals in general?
Okay, my winner for this match, like I said, it's been hard back and forth this one. I got the Hardys retaining. I think this is going to be one of the best tag team matches that we could have in TNA for this year. Sorry. I think it's going to be great. Like you said, it's going to be a dream match for both of these teams. That's what the whole build was based on. I'm really excited for this. The Hardys in TNA have been absolutely amazing. They seem a lot happier in TNA wrestling. They're definitely performing a lot better than they have the past couple of years, and I absolutely love that for the Hardys because they're like mid 40s, going on 50s. Like, they're absolutely amazing. They can still move like crazy good in the ring. Jeff is still doing the Swanton Bomb really well, the Whisper in the Wind, all that crazy stuff with Jeff Hardy. And Matt, one of the most underrated wrestlers in pro wrestling today. I love the Hardys. How can you not love the Hardys? I just think they're absolutely amazing. And then you got the Rascals, one of my favorite tag teams in the pro wrestling space. It could be amazing if they beat the Hardys, one of the most legendary teams of all time. It was great to see Zachary Wentz get that singles run, winning the championship. And but yeah, I really like them. I could see them winning the tag team gold at some point in 2025. I'm just not sure if it's going to be against the Hardys or not, but it's coming.
Yeah, I'm with you with that. And when it comes to the Hardys in TNA, I feel like this, like you said, it's been their best run in a very long time. It was riddled with injuries and things that happen outside of wrestling, but in the past year, with Jeff returning and Matt returning, and we seen the feud with Matt and Moose, which was great against All Odds. That match was just epic. And then just seeing Jeff Hardy seem to be so happy wrestling again with TNA and just happy in general with the company and with himself. I think this is just the best we've seen the Hardys in a very long time. And the Rascals, one of the best tag teams in the world. I feel like that's not that you can't deny that. The Rascals are really one of the best tag teams in the world. Having them have that spotlight earlier this year, being on NXT, showing up and reuniting with Wesley, having their 6-man match at, I think it was Slammiversary, where all three of them were together again.
I think so.
Yeah, just excellent with the Rascals. The Rascals are not winning though at all. This is the Hardys take the victory. They won at Bound for Glory, and I feel like when it comes to TNA right now in the tag team division, they're trying to build it around the Hardys. They got that 1-year contract. I feel like they'll probably re-sign for a longer contract after, but right now the focus is on the Hardys. I do know First Class, is out there as well, wanting those tag team championships. So having the Hardys versus KC Navarro and AJ Francis of First Class is one of the matches I'm dying to see in 2024. That is why I can't choose the Rascals to win. The Hardys have to win this.
Yeah, I'm right there with you too. Like you just mentioned, KC Navarro, AJ Francis. If you guys don't know who KC Navarro is, you need to know who he is. He's one of the best talents TNA has, and a lot of people don't know who he is. Like I learned about him about like a year ago. Absolutely been phenomenal with First Class, like you said. First Class going after tag team gold would be great. We also got to talk about the Good Hands. I would love to see the Good Hands going after the TNA tag team titles because we haven't seen a whole bunch of them. We've seen some singles matches, we've seen some tag team matches, but I'd like to see them get a push against the Hardys as well.
Yeah, the Good Hands. I totally forgot about them. I think it was 2 weeks ago when they faced the Rascals on TNA Impact, and that match was excellent. The Good Hands, really top tier tag team. You don't see much of them on the mic. You don't hear much of them on the mic, but when it comes to the in-ring ability of the Good Hands, they have it. So we got the Hardys, we got the Rascals, we got the Good Hands, we got First Class, we got ABC when they return, we got Saint and Sinner, out there too in the tag team space in TNA. So we got some solid tag teams in there, and I feel like this is going to be the year of trying to rejuvenate the tag team division in TNA.
I 100% agree with you there. Like you said, we got some amazing tag teams. I could see them even bringing in some tag teams from NXT who could get some chances against the Hardys for those TNA tag team championships and just elevate those teams while also having the Hardys as tag team champions.
It's crazy that you mentioned NXT because that quickly I forgot that we got this partnership. So the Hardys showing up back on WWE television as champions, as TNA tag team champions would be phenomenal. Taking on Fraxium. Like, come on, give me the Hardys versus Fraxium.
Don't even tease me with that. That would go crazy.
It would go really, really hard. So the door right now with WWE and TNA is wide open, and the matchups we can get with the incredible talent that is in NXT would be great, and especially in that tag team division. The Hardys versus Fraxium is just one of the matches that has to happen, I feel like.
Oh my god. I just thought about this. The Hardys against Hank and Tank for the
Ooh.
TNA World Tag Team Championships. I've been clamoring for Hank and Tank to get a tag team opportunity, and maybe that's the opportunity they get in 2025.
Yeah, that definitely is a big opportunity for them. And like we said earlier, when it comes to this partnership with the two sides, some of the tag teams in NXT that are not getting that shine could show up on TNA and really help the TNA tag team division. And that not just goes for the men's tag team division, it goes for the Knockouts tag team division as well. So this partnership just opens up a lot of doors for matchups and makes both shows in a way better than what they are currently now. And both shows are not bad. I watch NXT weekly. Obviously, I watch TNA weekly, and NXT delivers on a lot of the episodes, and TNA delivers almost weekly. There's never a really bad episode of TNA wrestling. So having these two companies work together just makes these two shows even better.
Yeah, it's essentially going to be a super show, like what Raw and SmackDown used to do in 2011, the super shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with TNA going live, with a couple of episodes, it just makes it even better to see these moments in real time and not in pre-recorded time. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
So the next match we got on the card has a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Jordynne Grace versus Tessa Blanchard. I'm gonna start off by saying that when it comes to Tessa Blanchard, when it comes to just these past couple of weeks in TNA, it has been good. Like the feud between Tessa Blanchard and Jordan Grace has really been solid, really been holding the TNA storylines down. We had Tessa Blanchard show up at Final Resolution where I was there live, amazing pay-per-view. But Tessa Blanchard showed up during the Jordan Grace and Rosemary match, attacked Jordan Grace, and revealed herself as being back with the company, right? And then after that, we've seen the buildup of Tessa Blanchard attacking Jordan Grace over the past couple of weeks. When TNA returned in the new year, we had Jordan Grace in it was like an 8-person knockouts match. But before the match started, she gave a passionate promo of how she's the knockouts division and she built the knockouts division, and she will be waiting for Tessa Blanchard by the door. And she had to go wrestle, so obviously she couldn't wait the entire night, but they sent a security guard out there. Tessa Blanchard attacked that security guard, charged the ring after the 8-person tag team match, and fought Jordan Grace all the way out of Center Stage Atlanta and literally dragged her by her hair and threw her out in the arena. So there's a lot of heat and animosity with Jordan Grace and Tessa Blanchard. So I want to hear your thoughts regarding Jordan Grace, Tessa Blanchard, and this huge knockouts match going down at Genesis.
Like you said, it's been a very intense, very rough, brutal feud that they've had so far. Just all the attacks that they've had on each other, the number of weeks that Tessa Blanchard has been back. I think they'll honestly work well together in this match tomorrow night. I'm pretty excited for it. I'm honestly not even sure about my prediction at this point, but I think they are going to cook. And with Jordan Grace like seemingly leaving TNA at the end of this month, I do have Tessa Blanchard going over in this match to kind of like assert the dominance of that Jordan Grace is going to be gone. But I think eventually, once Jordan Grace does come back to TNA Wrestling, then she'll eventually get her revenge on Tessa Blanchard, whenever that is. Because I do eventually think that we'll see Tessa and Masha Slamovich for that Knockouts World Championship.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I don't really know who's going to win. I'm struggling myself. I want to say Jordan Grace because Jordan Grace has been the standard for the knockouts division for a year or so now, and we had previous standards in Deonna Purrazzo and Mickie James and things of that sort under the Impact banner. So it's hard to not say Jordan Grace is going to win. But if Jordan Grace is stepping away from TNA, and I hate predicting on people leaving, I feel like Tessa Blanchard wins this. I feel like Tessa Blanchard wins this match. Jordan Grace and Tessa are going to tear the house down. This is another one that can easily be match of the night. They in storyline wise, because I know it's controversy around Tessa Blanchard, but storyline wise, it seems like Jordan Grace hates Tessa Blanchard, right? And Tessa Blanchard hates Jordan Grace. That's literally what this feud seems like, and it's about the who put the knockouts division on the map. And that's what this feud is all about. I think we both are in agreement here that Tessa Blanchard takes the win.
Yeah, I would love, like you said, I would love to see Jordan Grace get the win too. And I don't like to predict someone leaving the company either, but I think, like you said, storyline wise, it makes sense. And then there's always that door too that Jordan Grace could walk through later and just absolutely decimate Tessa Blanchard if she wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here. I'm here for that as well. I think if Jordan Grace wins tomorrow, a lot of us will be surprised if she wins tomorrow. I'm hoping she wins, but I got to go with my gut here. Tessa Blanchard takes the victory. So the next match we have on the card is the TNA Knockouts World Championship. Masha Slamovich defends against Rosemary. So we talked about Masha Slamovich just a tad bit earlier of her dethroning Jordan Grace at Bound for Glory. Then she beat Jordan Grace in the rematch at Turning Point. She defended the title against Tasha Steelz at Final Resolution. So now we're here with Rosemary, which Rosemary has been lurking around that Knockouts title literally since Jordan Grace had it, since the summer, since Rosemary returned back to TNA. So how are we feeling about Masha Slamovich? How are we feeling about Rosemary? And speaking of Masha Slamovich showing up on NXT this past week, do we see some more Masha on NXT? And who do you have winning? I just threw like 7 questions at you, but I expect you to answer all of them.
You're killing me. Okay, let me start off with the NXT. You mentioned NXT. She showed up there this past Tuesday. She was shown with the Cora Jade and Kalani Jordan match, and with the WWE TNA news that we just got on Thursday, it's very possible that we get some NXT talent around TNA Genesis because, as we know, TNA Genesis is also now advertising NXT as well with that video package and the new poster and everything. Yep. So it's very possible that we could see possibly Cora Jade involved with this TNA Knockouts World Championship match tomorrow night. That might be a hot take, but it might not be that hot because they're NXT TNA. The partnership's going now.
Right.
Regarding Masha winning the championship, I was excited. I know you were as well. She was the perfect person to beat Jordan Grace for that TNA Knockouts World Championship. The match was phenomenal. I believe it also got TNA Match of the Year.
I think so. Yeah.
One of the best matches I've ever seen this past 2024. Regarding the match tomorrow night, I'm going to go with Masha. I think she holds that championship kind of like a Jordan Grace. She'll have like a decent run with it. But ultimately, like we talked about with Tessa Blanchard, I think that's eventually where it's going to lead. I could see Masha going after or defending the championship rather against Tessa Blanchard, possibly at like a Slammiversary type show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement there with Masha Slamovich retaining. It's good to see Rosemary being featured a lot on television. I do want to quickly mention that this match is a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. So I believe in a way there is no disqualification. So there could be some Cora Jade showing up to interfere in this match. So, I'm kind of with you there. And Masha Slamovich, I feel like she will have that Jordan Grace type run. It might not be as long as Jordan Grace. I could see her dropping it at Rebellion if that's what they plan to do. But Masha Slamovich now is that new standard bearer for the Knockouts division. Rosemary is trying to get back to that top spot. She had the Knockouts title some years ago, and she wants that Knockouts title, right? So I think this is all Masha here. I believe this is going to be a great match. I hope it does set up a Masha and Cora Jade feud. I hope Cora Jade actually does show up on Sunday. I don't want to speculate on the NXT talent coming up, but if we are having this crossover, it would be nice to see Cora Jade show up and we get Masha and Cora down the line. But again, no hate to Rosemary. Masha Slamovich easily wins this match.
I love Rosemary too. She's got a great character. She's great at her backstage promos and everything like that. She's super interesting, and that's what I love about her. She's kind of like a Bray Wyatt-esque character. Not exactly the same as Bray Wyatt, but kind of like creepy and mysterious, and that's the kind of character that I like to see on television, especially for pro wrestling. It makes it a lot more interesting. That's why I gravitated toward The Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, Kane, all those characters when I was younger. Rosemary, they're going to have a banger match. And like you said, a lot of these matches could be considered match of the night. This is another one.
Yeah, absolutely. Like every one of these matches could potentially be match of the night. And that's the good thing about TNA, because I think we say this a lot when it comes to their pay-per-views and their monthly specials, that any one match could be that match of the night. That's how great the wrestling is in TNA. And when it comes to like dark characters, like you mentioned with Rosemary, The Undertaker, Kane, Bray Wyatt, Wendy Chu, because I love Wendy Chu's dark character. And we had Rosemary and Wendy Chu as a tag team for a bit in TNA. I love the dark characters. I love the dark characters, and I love the dark characters when they overcome and win the titles as well. And I feel like Rosemary will win the title sometime, hopefully this year, if not next. But this is all Masha Slamovich. This is Masha's time. Masha showing up on NXT this week was spectacular. Masha and Cora Jade is a match that we could see. Masha and Jada Parker, Masha and Lash Legends. There's a lot of possibilities with Masha here. I think that's piqued your interest right there.
Masha and Zarya.
Oh, yes.
A lot of people forget about Zarya. Whenever I do my NXT Twitch streams, we always forget about Zarya being on the NXT roster because it's just headlined by wrestlers like Julia, Stephanie, Cora, Roxanne. You got Sol Ruka, you got Kalani Jordan, you got Lash, you got Fallon. A lot of people forget about Zarya. That would be an absolutely amazing match to see.
Yeah, you got so many women on NXT that really are talented, and it's hard to pinpoint one out because there's so many of them. But Zarya versus Masha, I'll pay money to see that. Masha versus Stephanie Vakir would pay to see money for that. So there's a lot of possibilities coming out with this Knockouts World Championship and the main event scene for the Knockouts World Championship of what we can get in the coming months and the coming years with this partnership.
I seriously cannot wait. I can't stop smiling because of the partnership. It's gonna be amazing.
That's kind of how it was when it was announced on Thursday. I couldn't shut up about it because it was just so amazing and so unprecedented, at least for WWE's, and TNA's partnered with many companies over the years, but for WWE to step out and do this is just amazing.
Yeah, 1000%. I love it.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So we've reached the main event. The TNA World Championship, Nick Nemeth versus Joe Hendry. And when it comes to Nick Nemeth, showed up at Hard to Kill, claimed his spot, immediately put in the main event scene against Moose, feuded with the system all the way up until Slammiversary when he won the TNA World Championship. And one of his goals was to defend that title as much as he could, and he has. We've seen Nick Nemeth versus Mustafa Ali. We've seen Nick Nemeth versus AJ Francis. We've seen Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry at Bound for Glory. Man has been defending that title since Slammiversary, and then when it comes to Joe Hendry, he is just Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry, and I hate using this word because it's overused now, but Joe Hendry has this aura around him because he made his name with that song and with his theme song, showed up on NXT, has been just a phenomenal talent in 2024. And I do think this is his moment. But how we feeling? Nick, when it comes to Nick Nemeth versus Joe Hendry?
When it comes to this match, it's gonna be amazing. Like you said, over and over and over, could be match of the night. With this, I do think it is Joe Hendry's time. If Joe Hendry does not win this match, I honestly don't know what's next for Joe Hendry because I believe he signed with TNA going for most of 2025.
Yeah.
So I think Joe Hendry needs to win this match, just like he said on TNA Impact this past Thursday. He needs to win this.
It's gotta
happen. It's gotta happen.
I'm with you there. He has to win this match tomorrow at Genesis. But what I'm fearful of is Frankie Kazarian. Frankie Kazarian has that call your shot. And I'm fearful that Joe Hendry wins and Frankie Kazarian calls his shot after. How are we feeling about that?
I honestly completely forgot about the Frankie Kazarian having that. It could happen, especially with the whole John Layfield thing looming with the whole Nick Nemeth story. It's a possibility. It could happen, and it would give the TNA wrestling fans and the pro wrestling fans around the world, it would give Joe Hendry that championship vindication that he's been looking for in TNA wrestling. It would give him that championship win and that big moment, but only to have it stolen by Frankie Kazarian at the end of the show would just put him even more over and just give Frankie Kazarian even more heat because he took that away from one of pro wrestling's biggest stars in the world today. and I could see them eventually going for like another lengthy feud with Kazarian and Hendry with that TNA World Championship at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest and I don't want to say problem, I just the biggest downfall with the Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry feud is that both of them are faces, right?
Yeah,
And at this point they're trying to make animosity between the two that's not really truly there. And I feel like if Joe Hendry wins this, it's going to be a great moment, regardless if he wins this match. But I feel like it would be even more of a revenge and vindication if Joe Hendry loses right after to Frankie Kazarian. Frankie Kazarian will easily become the biggest heel in TNA and easily become the most hated man in professional wrestling. The professional wrestling world will be behind Joe Hendry for him to gain that title back. That's how I kind of want this to work out tomorrow. But if it doesn't, Joe Hendry still having that crowning moment is going to be epic for the TNA fans and the professional wrestling fans around the world.
1000%. Like I said, Hendry, he's got to get it. And you talked about like the animosity between Nemeth and Hendry. I thought honestly that they would have had Nemeth as a heel at this point with John Layfield by his side, having a heel championship run with the TNA World Championship. And that's how I thought Joe Hendry was going to win the championship against the heel Nick Nemeth with John Layfield as his manager, winning the championship tomorrow night at TNA Genesis with no Frankie Kazarian involved at all. But since you mentioned it at like previewing this match, I completely forgot about it. It's very possible.
Yeah, it's very possible, and we still have and you've talked about him a couple of times, JBL. We still got JBL out there. We know he's going to be in Texas because he'll be at Monday Night Raw this coming week. So I don't think it's far from where Monday Night Raw in Genesis is being held. So JBL could show up and stick his nose in this main event match tomorrow. And I'm fearful. I'm really fearful for Joe Hendry, and I'm fearful for the wrestling world that if Nick Nemeth wins this match clean, basically, that the wrestling world would be so unhappy with TNA and not giving Joe Hendry that moment. That's why I feel like Joe Hendry needs that moment. And then if you want to strip it away from him real quick and have Frankie Kazarian be your top heel in TNA, that is how you do it. That is how you do it right there.
That's the best way to do it. And if, like you said, if Joe Hendry loses clean, I think the wrestling world will just go on fire, and not for the good reasons either, because like you'll be going crazy on Twitter and just every other social media platform. Like it has to happen.
Yeah, tomorrow it has to happen. I would even be a little bit disappointed in TNA if they don't do the Joe Hendry move tomorrow. Now, after if they have Frankie Kazarian, call his shot, I'm cool with that as well. But I think Joe Hendry needs that title, and just to hear Nick Nemeth saying that he wants to wrestle the best in 2025 in TNA and not technically have the world title around his waist, I think that's just a telltale sign that Joe Hendry is winning this tomorrow. But Joe Hendry could win, but might not walk out as champion after Genesis goes off air.
It's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be very cinematic. Whatever happens.
Yeah, whatever happens tomorrow is going to be crazy for TNA. I think tomorrow in general, as we approach the end here, I think tomorrow for TNA as a whole is going to be a big night. We talked about the partnership with WWE. We talked about the NXT involvement potentially being there tomorrow because they promoted this as TNA Wrestling Genesis and then NXT at the bottom under Genesis. So we know there's going to be some type of NXT talent there tomorrow. TNA as a whole is in a resurgence in the professional wrestling world, and I think that is what TNA needs in 2025. But as we approach the door here, and I'm so grateful and happy that you were able to join me. I got one last question before we approach the door here. It'd probably be a two-part question. What is your bold prediction for TNA in 2025? And what are you most excited to see in your own mind with anything not being announced, what are you most excited to see out of TNA in 2025?
Bold prediction for 2025. I would honestly say I'd probably go with the Mike Santana, Steve Maclin World Championship feud, possibly for Slammiversary or Bound for Glory. Those are two of the biggest shows for TNA wrestling of every single year. I would have to say one of those. Well, excuse me. What was the second part?
The second question was, what is your bold prediction? Did you just answer that one, or was it?
I believe I think the bold prediction was the first one.
Okay, yeah, bold prediction was the first one. The second question is, what are you most excited to see out of TNA in 2025?
The rise of the tag team division, because I'm a very big tag team wrestling fan. I've always have been, always will be. I really hope that, like I said, with NXT crossing over with TNA, I want to see a lot of those big matchups with TNA for the not Knockouts Tag Team Championship, the World Tag Team Championship of TNA. And I think the Hardys, like you said, are going to uplift everybody in that division. And I just want to see it grow even more because I'm that much of a fan of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, I'm there with you when it comes to tag team wrestling. I think with AJ Francis in First Class, when he re-signed, he said his focus was being tag team champion and being in the tag team division. So I believe this year is the year for tag team wrestling to make that move in TNA wrestling. Tag team wrestling as a whole has been struggling across the board. I feel like when it comes to AEW, WWE, and TNA, and for some reason we got to find our footing. We got to find our footing there with that tag team division, and maybe this partnership with WWE and TNA could be that footing that we need in the tag team space.
I hope so, because I'm such a fan of it, and I honestly don't even know where to go for tag team wrestling right now. I've been watching a lot of New Japan for tag team wrestling, and I've really been enjoying it over there. But they need something. They need something because, like you said, all the divisions across all the major companies are struggling like crazy.
Yeah.
Except for NXT with Braxium. That's really good. That's really good so far. But everything else is
yeah, I agree with you there. The tag team division NXT has been popping in all of 2024. So I think the tag team division there could help the tag team division in TNA. And like you said, it's very hard to find good tag team wrestling anywhere. You mentioned, New Japan trying to get into the tag team division there. And I feel like the only way you can really get into some good tag team action is if you're looking in the indie scene where, tag teams kind of thrive there, but mainstream is hard to find. At one point, AEW had probably one of the best tag team divisions in the world, and it's just not there anymore. So we got to do something in that tag team division, and hopefully TNA could be a part of it.
I really hope so.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So we've approached the end of the show. And like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, the TNA review looks a little different this week because it was the preview and prediction show of Genesis, which airs tomorrow at 7 p.m. I believe the pre-show starts at 7 p.m. The main card starts at 8. It'll be on the TNA Plus app. It'll be on Triller TV as well. We ran through the entire card. So once this video gets posted, I want to see your predictions and previews in the comments. What are your thoughts of going down at Genesis tomorrow? Nick, I want to thank you for the bottom of my heart for being here. I know we've became really good friends over the past couple of months here. It was great getting to know you. It's great being here to sit with a fellow TNA fan, to give his thoughts and just his passions around TNA. So I'm really grateful that you were here today to be a part of this episode. But I'm gonna let you take us out here with your final thoughts about Genesis, and you can plug your socials and lead us to the door here.
All right. Again, thank you so much for having me on. This was an absolute blast. Like I said in DMs, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I never get the chance to talk TNA wrestling with a lot of fellow fans because it's hard to find. It really is hard to find, like you said at the beginning of the show. So this has been absolutely amazing. I appreciate the opportunity. This has been a phenomenal time. Amazing.
Well, yeah. That's great. Keep going. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, you're okay. But yeah, I appreciate it. absolutely awesome to do. Hope to be on for some more because I would love to talk some more TNA wrestling with you. And I'm also going to be starting up something of my own, so I'd love to have you on for that as well. Final thoughts for TNA Genesis. Oh, it's going to be a banger of a show. I'm gonna knock out a bold prediction for right now. I think match of the night is gonna be Mike Santana and Josh Alexander, the I Quit match. And I think it's gonna be a 10 out of 10 show. The card is just absolutely amazing and it looks phenomenal. As for my socials, you guys can find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. For those who are going to be surviving the United States ban tomorrow, all going to be Nick Terrio 12. You guys can also find me on Instagram at Nick Terrio 12 Wrestling.
That's great. So go follow my man Nick on all his socials. He did mention the TikTok ban in the United States, which is heartbreaking all around the United States right now. But I want to thank you for joining me today again, Nick. I want to thank everybody that is watching or that will be watching shortly for sticking with us, for sticking with the new transition of this not being the TNA Impact Review, but being the Genesis and preview and prediction show. We will be back tomorrow for Genesis. We will be live on the channel, live reacting to Genesis tomorrow night. Our live stream starts at 7. We'll be covering TNA Genesis, and I believe GCW will be back on Monday for Monday Night Raw, Tuesday for NXT, and like the show is here, it goes on and on all week. So join us again tomorrow for TNA Genesis and the GCW double stream tomorrow. I'm excited for Genesis. Nick is excited for Genesis. I'm excited to eventually have Nick back on here for us to talk more TNA, and maybe not even TNA. We can talk some WWE as well. But again, Nick, I thank you for joining. You guys have been watching the Wrestling for Life Network. Go follow my friend on all of his social media apps, and we will catch you in the next TNA prediction show, TNA preview show, and the live episode of TNA this coming Thursday. We will be here live reacting to TNA this coming Thursday. Again, thank you. And I will catch you, and Nick will catch you on his socials in the next one.